This week on Dance of Joy, we talk about Kurosawa's legacy, jumping timelines, and professional arm wrestling techniques. All that and more as we watch Season 5, Episode 22 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I am one of your hosts, and joining me, as always, is my favorite co-host and also my just average brother. My favorite brother, too. What's up, Imran?
Hello, Sophia. How's it going, cousin sister?
It's going well.
We're cousin siblings. I know, it's weird. Hey, you know what I was just thinking of? Remember that time when we were kids and we were riding bikes and I was going to get a haircut?
Yes, I was just telling my friend about that.
We approached this intersection and an accident happened, right? You were behind me, I got hit by the car. Now, the way I remember it, it was this giant monster truck came speeding out of nowhere, like giant wheels. There was no way I could avoid it. And I bounced way off the thing into the street.
Yeah. You bounced off the roof of the car.
Is that what happened? What was
I
your
remember a brown Chevette.
Oh, boy.
And you did bounce. I do remember you rolled onto the hood of the car and then bounced off into the street, and your bike was
Wait a minute.
mangled.
It was a Chevette. It wasn't a Ferrari.
It was not a monster truck.
You know what? I had wished it was a Ferrari because I could have got some good scratch from that. Instead, the guy's driving like a Chevy Nova.
Got pennies.
And he could barely fix my bike.
I just was like, what just happened?
You know what? I was fine, but I feel like it was way more traumatizing for you because you saw the whole thing happen.
It. Yeah.
And I didn't because I was in it.
But then you got to go in the ambulance, and I don't remember. I think the cops drove me home, or maybe I didn't go in the ambulance.
Yeah, that was crazy. Then I had to call our parents and be like, look, I'm fine. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
I'm just like a teenager.
What did I do? They just dropped me at home? I don't remember
we
what
both
happened.
have varying reports about what happened.
What happened afterward.
A traumatic incident will give you multiple versions of stories.
Yes, as we will see with this week's episode of Perfect Strangers. We are on Season 5, Episode 22, entitled Eyewitless. Reports, not eyewitness.
That's a good pun. I get it.
Witless.
Eyewitness.
Witless. Without wits.
No wit here. No
Eyewitless reports, which is a pun on that expression. Eyewitness reports.
Yes, no wit here. What are we getting into? Well, if you cracked open the TV guide with that smell of newsprint and ink, fresh, you would have read, a state trooper hears differing heroic tales about how on a newspaper-sponsored trip to a mountain retreat, the gang and Mr. Gorpley trapped an escaped killer. Whoa. Exciting.
Very exciting. We have our standard cast of Bronson, Marklin, Baker, Rebecca Arthur, Melanie Wilson as Balky, Larry, Marianne, and Jennifer. And we also have Sam Anderson as Sam Gorpley. And then a couple guest stars that we'll talk about.
One great guest appearance. Can't wait to talk to him about him. This episode originally airing April 11th, 1990. And of course, Amazon Freevee is where you can binge and watch all 8 seasons of Perfect Strangers for free and watch along with us and then relive it and get involved.
Yes, and pick apart every detail the way we do because we're nerds.
Yes.
Okay.
Nerds.
Nerd alert. Act 1, let's start this episode. We are not at our usual 2 opening scenes. We are not at the apartment. We are not at the Chronicle basement. We are in the woods.
A wooded area, almost like a horror movie intro into a cabin at nighttime. This episode starts crazy. And you hear Larry's voice telling Jennifer and Marianne to keep going just a little farther. And then he is in the doorway of this cabin, and this cabin is really nice. Balky is already there. It's a nice wooded cabin with a kitchen and a living room.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
Pretty swanky for a resort. And Balky's like, Cousin, why did you take a cabin 2 miles away from the rest of the group? Here's your opening joke. He goes, are you trying to add to your frequent hikers mileage? Frequent flyers, hikers.
And Larry, of course, there's a reason. He's planned everything out to have some romantic time with the girls. So he tells Balky, while everyone from the Chronicle is way down the hill playing volleyball, we'll be up here with Jennifer and Marianne playing different games. And then he does the little wink, nudge, nudge. Okay,
and I think we all know what's coming.
And Balky carries on. He's like, And then finally, Balky says...
What are we talking about?
It's the old what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? In 4 years, he doesn't know what the nudge, wink, wink
and it's
means.
always like the same subject about it.
Right.
But I love Larry's laugh. He's just like,
And then Larry's just like, I'll explain it to you later.
He doesn't bother to explain it.
That's why Balky still doesn't know, because he's never bothers to explain it.
And then Marianne and Jennifer get there, and they're a little winded. As we've established, this cabin is in the middle of nowhere. And Jennifer goes, I love getting back to nature. And Marianne's like, so do I. I just wish it wasn't so far out in the country. Nature is out in the country. Yeah. That's where it lives.
And Larry's like immediately trying to impress the girls. And he says to Jennifer, look, isn't this place great? We're separate, totally separate from civilization.
Secluded.
It's secluded. There's no TV, no phone, etc. And then Balky looks across the room and he sees a radio and he gets excited and he's like, I wonder if we, and he goes up to start like turning knobs on it, whatever. It's a transistor radio.
Yes. And what's his favorite station?
WANE, Wayne.
Wayne,
he
says.
Wayne Newton all the time. So he's looking and Marianne's like, oh, that's my favorite station.
See,
and
they're
they
perfect
like
together.
Start fiddling with the knobs to try to find the frequency. And then Jennifer's super impressed. She's like, nice cabin. She like cuddles up and all nice and puts her arms around him. They're standing very close and Larry's getting all like romantic. He's like, I reserved it in advance to make sure we had a nice, private, secluded cabin all to ourselves.
Yeah.
And on cue, at all to ourselves, who emerges from the back area of the cabin, like the bathroom? Mr. Gorpley. And he's like, the damn toilet's backed up.
That's so great. Just
not only is he
out
in their cabin, but he has clogged the toilet
He
already.
already did the first party foul. He's clogged the toilet.
Gross.
The damn toilet's backed up. He goes, I can't believe I'm stuck in this crummy cabin. And he's wearing this crazy 80s
It's a Trapper Keeper shirt.
It's like a Trapper Keeper shirt. It's got this crazy 80s pattern.
Yes.
But yay, Gorpley's here. You know, it's always fun when Sam Gorpley is in an episode.
Yeah.
Gorpley, they ask him what he's doing here. And Gorpley's like, would you believe it? The idiots in my cabin threw me out. And Balky, trying to make him feel better, pats him on the shoulder. He goes, oh, of course we believe it, Mr. Gorpley.
So funny.
While insulting him.
Yeah.
It's so funny, though.
But he's trying to cheer him up.
Yeah,
yes.
It's like, we believe you.
I'm going to try that sometimes. Next time someone says, would you believe it?
Yeah.
I would believe it.
You know what? I believe it.
I would believe
you.
it, actually.
They'd be like, wait, what? What just happened here?
And then Marianne's still fuddling with the knobs, and then she turns to a news station. We hear this old-timey news bulletin.
There's a news bulletin.
Beep, 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 beep. It's not like today's Amber Alert tones, but it's like a beep, 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 beep. And she's like, oh, everyone quiet down. There's a news bulletin. And then the radio announcer announces convicted killer Howard Mad Dog Krause has escaped from prison. Krause is 6'4", completely bald, and is considered extremely dangerous. He was last seen in the vicinity of Big Piney National Forest. And where are this gang? Of course, they are at Big Piney National Forest.
Oh, boy.
And they all get scared because what if Mad Dog shows up there? And Balky's like, if he does, nobody try to pet him.
Because he's a mad dog. You know what this reminds me of? The show that scares me the most on TV is America's Most Wanted. Because every week that dude would be like, this serial killer could be in your backyard right now. And I'm like, why,
oh my God.
Why are you telling me this? I don't need that. Now I'm not going outside.
Yes.
But in this case, yes, Mad Dog is in Big Piney National Forest where they are. And Jennifer suggests leaving because it is very isolated up there. And Gorpley goes, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I've already paid this month's alimony. So they all suggest, let's get out of there. And they all start grabbing for the bags. But Balky is the one voice of reason. He goes, wait a minute. People. He says it really weird too, right? He goes, we came up here to have fun. Don't tell me that you're going to let our whole weekend be ruined by one 6'4" bald-headed psychotic killer. He says, you're happy. You're letting your fears get the best of you. This happened once on Meepos. It was right after the Great Cucumber Famine. And then everybody cuts him off.
Bartagamus, we don't have time for a stupid Meepos story. Let's go. And then they all start to run for the door. And then Larry's like, wait, I've heard this story. And Balky's like, want to hear it again? He's like, no.
Everybody goes, no. At the same time.
No. But Larry comes to Balky's defense. He's like, he's right. We're overreacting. This is a big forest. What are the chances of Mad Dog finding this cabin?
Good point, but this is also a sitcom.
But it's funny that Larry's trying to be the voice of reason
he's
here.
Like the level-headed,
he's usually the panicky one.
Yeah. He's the first one to jump, right? Marianne goes, I'm going to lock the door just in case. She goes over, locks the door, and Larry's like, it's going to start dinner, and he goes over to the kitchen, and he goes, by the time the steaks are done, we'll realize how silly we're being, as he's facing them, and the gang is facing him, and behind him is this window.
Big window in the kitchen.
Suddenly, behind Larry, the big window, appears a huge bald man with a big like handlebar mustache, wearing like blue denim.
A sleeveless denim shirt.
It's clearly Mad Dog, and the group screams in unison. And then Larry goes, hey, I thought we agreed steak was okay. Because he hasn't seen Mad Dog yet.
And then he turns around, he sees him, and he screams too, and he closes the shutters.
Just closes the shutters quickly.
And then we see panicky Larry. There he is. He's a little bit delayed today, but he got there. He says, it's him. It's Mad Dog Krause. And he's like, we have to just run for it. And he heads, they all like run for the front door, but then there's a loud pounding on the front door. Mad Dog's at the front door pounding on it.
He's quick
and
for a big guy. And
they all sort of like freeze and huddle together in the middle of the living room. The pounding continues and we hear him go, open up. And then he starts rattling the door handle, trying to open it. And Balky tells the girls to go hide in the closet. So they leave.
Balky takes charge here. It's very interesting, right?
And then Gorpley starts to go with them and he pulls him back by the shirt. He's like, not you.
Gorpley.
And Gorpley's like, no, but somebody should stay with the women. And Balky like doesn't let go of his shirt, so he's still there. So it's just the men there, and Balky has this idea: if Mr. Mad Dog comes in here and kills all three of us, then he might get tired, and the girls can escape while he's resting.
There's his plan.
So his plan is just to be killed first and tire him out,
sacrificing his life. Pretty noble plan. And then Mad Dog pounds again, and then Larry's like, "I got to come up with a plan." And Balky goes, it's a lucky thing that door is good and thick. You have plenty of time to think of something. When suddenly Mad Dog punches his hand through the door, reaches around, unlocks it, opens the door, and Balky goes, time's up, of course, right?
Yeah.
And now Mad Dog is there. The door's open. He's stepping inside. He sees them. He's very intimidating looking, this dude.
Big dude.
And he goes, oh, this is going to be fun. As they back away, and he advances, and then we get this great little transition cutscene. I love when people do this. It's kind of like really artsy. Yeah. It's like something you would do at like our film school.
Like fades. Yeah.
What happens is you walk into the camera. So Mad Dog walks straight into the camera where his shirt covers the camera and goes black. And then we see a shirt walking away from the camera.
It's like what they do on TikTok these days.
Yes. Oh my God. It's the TikTok edit. Exactly.
The transition.
It is a TikTok transition.
Yep.
And so we see that. But then when you walk away, it is the shirt of a state trooper. Right? And there's like 3 state troopers and they have Mad Dog.
And they're taking him away.
And they're taking him away. What happened?
What happened?
Oh my God.
Then we're about to find out. So we've cut to the end to see them arresting Mad Dog, and then the state trooper comes in. All the gang is sitting on the couch around the living room couches, and the guy's like, I can't believe you captured Mad Dog Krause. The last time he was captured took half the National Guard. Wow. And then he just like opens his notepad, gets ready to start taking notes. He's like, so how'd you do it?
And then everybody starts talking at once. Well, see over here, but then I was going over there.
Everybody commotion.
And then he goes, whoa. And then he turns and looks at Gorpley, points at Gorpley, and goes, you tell me what happened. And then he implores Gorpley, stick to the facts. Let's not elaborate.
Yeah, he's like, sometimes people get creative.
Yes, which we know exactly what's going to happen
with
here.
Their stories.
So Gorpley starts telling his version of what happened. As there's voiceover and you get a little transition, wavy effect.
And then we get a dramatized version of his version.
Through Gorpley's eyes, this is what happened. As he mentions coming here on this crummy trip the newspaper sponsored, it begins to dissolve. And he goes, I was in the back when I heard Tweedledum and Tweedledummer come in. And now you see Balky and Larry entering, right? Wearing the same clothes, but there's a few differences.
Yes.
As we'll see. First of all,
This is
smiling.
from Gorpley's imagination, his
They're
memory.
smiling and giggling like idiots.
Yes.
Walking in.
Kind of like dumb idiots.
And Balky's hair is just like a little bit messy for some reason. There's
And
like
Larry's
some straight.
too, yeah.
And both of their hairs are just like they messed them
And they
up,
have these
right?
goofy smiles on their faces.
And they come in and they're all giddy. And Larry's like, Balky, I can't believe it. You meet Jennifer and Marianne alone. You know what that means. And then Balky goes, well, of course I do.
I am ridiculous.
Which is what Gorpley thinks Balky is always saying. I am ridiculous. He thinks he's ridiculous. He goes, you're going to try and trick Jennifer into kissing you. And then it goes, yeah. And they both giggle like they're 13 years old. They're like, oh.
Oh, my gosh.
So funny. It's so silly.
And then we get back to Gorpley's narration. And he says, then things got interesting. The babes came in.
Oh, boy. This is
And
something.
here's a little bit of this show that probably would not fly today on
1990,
television.
let's remember.
So he said the babes came in. Again, this is Gorpley's memory of version of what happened. And so Jennifer and Marianne come in, and
There's something different
their
about them.
boobs are just huge. There's like balloons in their shirts, like
Enlarged.
huge
Yes.
boobs.
This is Gorpley's. Them.
And they're just acting like normal, but that's like how Gorpley's
not only
Gorpley's telling
are
of the
they
story.
more endowed, they're also into Sam Gorpley.
Yeah.
As Marianne goes, I don't know why we have to have a cabin so far away from Sam Gorpley. I'm like, what? And then Jennifer goes, this can mean only one thing. Larry's going to try to trick me into kissing him.
And they both go, ew.
As Jennifer closes the door. And then it cuts to Balky. He found the radio. We saw him. But this time he goes, look, cousin, a toaster. And he runs over and he picks up. Well, first he runs into Marianne, his bosom, and he just goes, wow. And then he runs over. He picks up the radio. He carries back. He goes, cousin, get the bread. It just wouldn't be Friday without toast. Just like silly.
It just wouldn't be Friday. And Larry's like, well, I like my Friday toast as much as you do, Balky.
Friday toast.
But that's a toaster. That's not a toaster. It's a radio. And he turns a knob and music starts playing. And Balky's like, a radio? Where do you put the bread?
Where do you put the bread? Just acting like an idiot that Gorpley thinks.
Yes.
So then Gorpley steps out from behind, and this is a different Gorpley.
This
is a very confident version.
From the bathroom.
His chest is puffed out, his shoulders are back, and instead of saying the toilet is jammed, he goes, I just killed a rattlesnake in the bathroom. Anybody need a belt? Oh my God, Gorpley.
And then the girls get excited. Marianne's like, Jennifer, Sam's here. And they run to him and stick their chests in his, like in front of him. And Jennifer's like, thank God, a real man. Marianne's like, he's mine. I saw him first. So in Gorpley's telling, they're like arguing over him. He's mine. I want him. And Gorpley's like, girls, there's enough of me to go around. Ew, vomit.
Gorpley. Yeah. Jeez. And then comes some great comedy, some stuff I still remember to this day.
Yeah, this is one of those episodes.
Balky steps up to Sam. He goes, Mr. Gorpley, welcome to our
Bingy.
Because you're just in time for dinner. I hope you like Bingy. After dinner, we're going to sit down in front of the Bingy and sing Bingy. And what does Gorpley say? He's got a great line.
He's like, Bingy. Meepiat's been in this country 4 years and everything's still Bingy. Which is such a great concept because every language has that like word that you can use for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so somebody like is very smart to like imagine this. It's like very real. Like, oh, he's been here 4 years. He's still calling everything a Bingy.
It's because everything can be a Bingy.
Yeah.
Some things we'll find out. There's one thing that can't.
And then in this version of the story, Larry's the one who says, oh, quiet down. There's a news bulletin. He turns up the radio and they listen to the announcement.
It's the same thing.
Same announcement.
Big piney forest.
And then Larry's like, oh, my God, I'm going to die. And I've never been with a woman.
And then there's a great shot of Marianne slowly turning her head to look at Jennifer. It's so funny.
So that's like Gorpley's dig at Larry. And Balky says, my God, I'm going to die. And I've never even Bingy bingy.
So this is like a verb.
We don't even know what
bingy,
that one is.
He's never bingy bingy. So they both start to cry, and Gorpley steps in between him. He goes, guys, get a grip. And he smacks Larry across the face. And then he raises his hand to smack Balky, and Balky goes, I'm okay.
I'm okay. And he like pulls his face back.
That's great.
So in this version, Gorpley is calm and collected and the one who gathers everyone to their senses. He says, you're letting your fears get the best of you. And Balky's like, yes, he's right. The same thing happened once on Mipos. It was right after the great cucumber famine. Or was it the tomato famine? Maybe it was the great persimmon famine. Or maybe, and then Gorpley slaps Balky across the face. And Balky says, many thanks.
And wait, so also what's weird is the way he's pronouncing words in this line.
It got very weird.
It was right after the great cucumber famine. Yeah. Or was it the tomato famine?
Like a babyish voice.
Or maybe it was persimmon
like
famine.
Like an Andy Kaufman voice.
It goes, many thanks. I'm like, why are you talking like that? What is going on? It's so
funny. It was
funny.
Weird. I don't know if Bronson Pinchot was just doing something silly or what.
I don't know. It was hilarious. So Gorpley tells Balky to go lock the door. And then Balky goes, but how can I lock the door? I don't have the bingy bingy.
And he's like, the door has a key in it. So Balky runs over to the door. And Gorpley tells Larry to close the shutters. And Balky comes running back, holding up the key and proclaiming, I locked the bingy bingy.
I locked the bingy bingy.
And Larry is looking back into the room with his back to the window in the kitchen. And that's when Mad Dog appears in the window.
Same thing happens.
Same thing happens. They scream. Everybody screams, but Gorpley doesn't scream.
Yeah, he doesn't even react. And Larry shuts the shutters. He runs back. He goes, Mad Dog, there.
I saw him.
He's just a babbling idiot in Gorpley's version. And Gorpley's like, oh, I hope there's two of them. Let me handle this. All brave and it's so funny.
Yeah, macho. Very macho Gorpley.
As he turns, he steps right into Jennifer's bosom.
Chest.
Yes.
Can you stop saying bosom?
Bosom? But isn't that the clinical term? That's like the technical.
It is not.
It's not? Oh.
It's like a 1920s
It's an old-timey word? I like the old-timey word. Okay, Jennifer's endowed frontage.
Yes.
And then he just looks at her and goes, later. And then he screams out to Mad Dog. He goes, why don't you come in here? Let me take you on if you're man enough. And Jennifer's like, I love a man that challenges psychotic killers. And she swoons.
Then we hear Mad Dog pound on the front door and yell, open up. And then it's Gorpley in this version who says, babes in the closet. And then Jennifer's like, I know you can get us out of this, Sam. And then Marianne, also, this is like very kind of adult, racy language. Marianne says, don't hurt your hands, Sam. You'll need them later.
Oh, my God. Gorpley tries to bite her. He goes,
on TGIF.
Jeez.
And they go off into the closet. And then Larry and Balky start running to the closet, too. But now it's Gorpley who holds them back. He's like, not you. And he slaps Larry across the face. He turns to slap Balky, but Balky just slaps himself and saves him the trouble.
Yeah, so it's great.
And so they all go toward the door, and then Mad Dog is yelling, open up. Larry's like, I hope you have a plan, Gorpley. There's like, you hear Mad Dog pounding, and Balky says, it's a lucky thing the door is bingy bingy. And that's when Mad Dog punches a hole through the door, reaches down to open the unlock the door.
Same thing, steps in, says, oh, this is going to be fun, which is the same thing he said last time. And Larry's just quaking. He's like, I can't. And they both scream and they run off to the back and then they poke their heads out to watch from the back corner, which is kind of funny. And Gorpley's like, all right, looks like it's just the two of us. And then there's a little action scene here.
Yes. Mad Dog goes to punch Gorpley and Gorpley blocks his punch with his fist.
Catches his fist.
And like, this is a big guy, so it looks like not balanced at all.
Yes.
And he stops his fist, catches it, and he like crushes his fist with his hand and like pulls Mad Dog down to his knees and then like uppercuts him across the face.
Takes him out.
And then he gets knocked out and falls. Then he like falls to the ground and then he puts his foot on his chest like in a conquering pose. And he was like, he goes, there was a time when a name like Mad Dog meant something.
And then Larry and Balky rush out and they're like, oh, thank you. And they kneel both next to him, take his hand and start kissing it. And Larry's like, thank you. And Balky's like, bingy, bingy. And then the girls rush out and they literally kick the two boys out so they can sidle up real close to Gorpley as he grabs them. And Jennifer goes, Sam, take me.
Whoa. And then he bends Jennifer over to kiss her and then pulls her back up. And then he bends Marianne. They're like on either side of him.
Yeah.
Bends Marianne down to kiss her and then pulls her up. And then they all kind of like swoon. And then we fade to black. It's the end of Act 1
of Gorpley's fantasy movie in his head. Listener, before we get to Act 2, if you want to join this conversation and meet other fans of this podcast and fans of Perfect Strangers, join our Facebook group. There's a link in the episode description. I post a thread there about the episodes before we record them, so you can watch along on Freebie and leave your comments and observations and inconsistencies and any
watch in
stuff.
3D? In Freebie.
Freebie 3D? Is it in 3D?
3D Freebie.
Could you watch Perfect Strangers in 3D? They could make a fun 3D episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's all there, Facebook group.
Join it.
Join it today.
Okay, Act 2, where we see the outside of the cabin, then we hear the state trooper as we like transition to the inside and back in present time in the cabin, and the state trooper is like, you knocked out Mad Dog Krause with one punch. And Gorpley's like, yup, that's pretty much what happened. And then you guys showed up and Balky's offended. He's like, as he should be, right? Because he made Balky look like an idiot.
Yes.
He says, Mr. Gorpley, I cannot believe what you said about me. You know that I never, under any circumstances, would use bingy bingy in a dependent clause.
So funny.
Funny.
This is the line I was waiting for.
It is so funny.
The minute I heard bingy bingy, I was like, oh my God, I still remember that line about I would never use bingy bingy as a dependent clause. So bingy bingy can be used for almost everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what a dependent clause is. I have to Google it. But
grammatical.
I've remembered this line for like 8 years. How long has it been? Yeah, it's one of those lines. I was like, oh my God, the bingy bingy line is great.
Very funny line.
Yeah.
And so the officer is clearly not buying this story. And so Larry steps in and he's like, Officer, I'm Larry Appleton, investigative reporter from the Chicago
Larry's
Chronicle.
Turn, right? Sure.
If you want an objective, unbiased account, I think I'm the man to give it to you.
I doubt it, but let's go with it.
But here we go. So then we launch, or dissolve rather, into Larry's version of the story. And so we're back. We go back in time a little bit. Everyone's panicking. They've just heard the radio announcement.
So we pick up just after the radio bit, right? Yes.
And they're like, let's leave. And in this version, Larry tells everyone they're overreacting. And Balky is like fawning over Larry's every word. He's like, Cousin Larry's right, as usual. Lead us, cousin, and we will follow.
Because
he just loves every plan that Larry has.
Yes. It's great.
And so Marianne goes to lock the door just in case. Larry's like, okay, do that. I'll start dinner. And by the time the steaks are done, everyone will realize they're being silly. And again, we have him with his back to the kitchen window. And Balky says, that's my cousin. Hey, is it any wonder I love the guy? Like he just unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's when we see Mad Dog in the window behind Larry. Everyone screams just like in previous versions. Larry turns around, sees Mad Dog, doesn't scream.
Calmly closes the shutters.
Calmly and collectedly closes the shutters.
I love that.
The girls are like, you didn't see him? That was Mad Dog Krause. And Larry says, calm yourself, Jennifer. I saw him. This is nothing I can't handle. What? Cool, collected Larry? I don't buy it already.
Balky goes, I bet he has a plan. You have a plan, don't you, cousin? And even Gorpus is like, oh, do you, Appleton? Do you? Say you have a plan.
Please say you have a plan. And Balky's like, of course he does. Share it with us, cousin. Larry tells the girls to go in the closet.
Yep.
And he tells the guys to prepare for battle.
And then, of course, Gorpley tries to sneak away into the closet with the girls, and Larry grabs him and then pulls him back. He goes, not you, Gorpley. And then he smacks Gorpley on the face once.
Yes.
Then he pauses, smacks Gorpley in the face again.
For no reason.
Gorpley's face is just like, ah. Huh? He raises his hand a third time, and Balky's like, cousin, what are you doing? And Larry goes, I'm just getting him back for that story he told.
Whoa.
This blew my mind. Because
they jumped out of the story.
Let me extrapolate. Are these characters living these three moments over and over again in a time loop of some sort that they are aware of what happened in the last story.
They're sitting in the cabin with the state trooper telling the story. But yeah, they broke the
it's like breaking the fourth wall, but it's not really the fourth wall.
Yeah,
it's
they jumped the timeline.
Sidewall.
Yeah, they jumped the timeline.
I was like, oh my God, how could I make this work in my head?
So
it's great.
cool, though.
So funny.
It's so funny.
So now he's referencing the story that was just told in his elaborate story. It's so funny. Own embellished
it's just
story.
Like a nod to the meta. Anyway.
But then it made me go all science fiction in my head.
So then we get Mad Dog pounding on the front door of the cabin, and Larry's the one to lead the men toward the door. And he's like, when I give the word, we'll jump him. And Gorpley's like, good plan, Appleton. And Balky's like, good plan? Yeah. I'll have you know it's a brilliant plan.
And he smacks Gorpley again.
And he slaps Gorpley again. And Balky says, it's my privilege to witness his genius each and every day.
And then he smacks Gorpley again.
Gosh.
Gorpley gets smacked the most in this episode. You'll see.
And Larry's trying to be modest, but still bragging and humble bragging. He's like, please, Napoleon was a genius. I'm just a simple man of great courage.
And then we get the same bit. Mad Dog busts through the door, opens it up, steps in, goes, oh, this is going to be fun. And Gorpley is hilarious. He pulls out his wallet and he pulls out all his cash. He goes, here, take all this. And he throws it at him. He goes, by the way, there's women in the closet. And he runs off. There's women in the closet, Gorpley says. It's so funny.
Where does he run off to? To the closet?
Yeah, I think maybe. I don't know.
Mad Dog starts to go toward Larry and Balky. And Larry's like, all right, Balky, it's just you and me. Sorry I got you into this, buddy. And Balky's like, there's so much I want to say in so little time. And he goes, Mad Dog, could you give us a moment? Or Larry says, Mad Dog, could you give us a moment?
Mad Dog just goes, sure. And he turns sideways. He crosses his arms and kind of is like waiting.
Because Larry has to have all this dialogue in his story
Larry's
to prove
in control. Mad Dog's
that he saved.
Yes.
Mad Dog says, sure, walks away. Balky says to Larry, if I have to die, this is the way I want to go. Fighting at the side of the bravest man I know. I kiss the ground you walk on. And then he points to the floor. He's like, did you just walk right there? And Larry's like, yes, I did. And he gets down on the floor and kisses that floor. And then he points to the side. He's like, did you walk over there? And Larry's like, yes, I did. And he keeps kissing different spots on the floor.
Actually kissing the floor. This is what Larry thinks Balky worships the ground he walks on. Hilarious. And then finally Larry pulls him up and he's like, all right, come on, Balky, come on. He goes, Mad Dog, proceed. And then Mad Dog turns and starts to get all aggro on him again and lunges at him.
He grabs Balky and he's like choking his neck and
he's picking him up and down.
Picking him up and down on the ground.
Choking him.
They kind of like cut to not show. They only have them in the corner of the screen because he's just like doing nothing, but they're kind of simulating
he's just like lifting him
attack.
Up and down.
Yeah.
Not really doing anything.
It's kind of comical.
When suddenly Larry goes, and then strikes a karate pose.
Yeah. He's like, I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this. And he makes a very stereotypical karate chop noise. And he's like, let him go. I know karate. And Mad Dog's like, big deal. And he keeps like bouncing Larry and Balky and choking him and pulling him up off the ground. And Balky's like, cousin, I don't know how much longer I can endure. And then Larry's like, I warned you. And then he jumps forward. He grabs Mad Dog's arm. He pulls him away from Balky. Balky runs away. Then Larry twists his arm as Balky like just is watching from the side. And then he like does all this.
So he does
karate.
This is a great homage to like martial arts movies, right? He's doing all these martial arts moves, including it's very specific, like the rapid fire punch to the torso,
to the chest,
right? And he goes back, he jumps back, and he gives them some kicks, and then he does what's called a finishing move.
Yeah,
as he takes his hand with his claw, puts it over his heart. He goes
like he's about to pull his heart out.
Pulls back and stands into a stance, and Mad Dog's just standing there. And Balky's like,
in a daze.
Cousin, I don't think I did anything. And Larry's like, oh, yeah? And he snaps his fingers. And Mad Dog falls to his knees and falls down into the ground. Well, you know what's great about this? In this reality, this Larry continued those karate lessons from the second season.
Oh, yeah.
He could be a black belt at this point.
He could, actually.
In this timeline, in this multiverse,
karate.
Whatever this is, where everybody is aware of everything, or this time loop.
Yeah, he would have been a black belt by now.
Right? That's how I'm going to choose to believe it.
So Mad Dog
another great action scene. Larry defeats Mad Dog.
And the girls and Gorpley come back out of hiding.
Gorpley was hiding in the back behind the closet.
Yeah. And then Jennifer is like so impressed with Larry. She like runs into his arms and she says, "Larry, take me." And then they kiss. And then Balky and Marianne are like on the floor, like kneeling, and then gesture their arms up to Jennifer. And
they're reaching out their arms almost like
Larry.
he's Jesus or something.
Yeah,
like
I
it's
don't
a
know.
very like Renaissance painting,
Renaissance
like pose of like the Jesus story or
they're
Michelangelo's.
like below them, like with their arms up.
It's very strange as it dissolves.
And then we just hear Gorpley say, "I like my version better."
Yes, he scoffs, of course.
And we go back to the present, and Larry's like, "Wait, I just told it the way it happened." And the trooper is clearly not buying this one either. And he looks around and he says, "Is there anyone here that can tell me what happened without turning himself into Indiana Jones?"
Okay, that's a reference. Do we have to mention that? Everybody knows Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
There's a new movie coming out.
There is.
Indiana Jones 5, Harrison Ford. I'm looking forward to it.
Are they going to make him younger?
Well,
he's old.
There's flashbacks where they have de-aged him.
That's awesome.
In the movie, and he's like 80, right?
Yeah.
But this is the last movie with him, and I love Indiana Jones. 4 was not good, so this one looks a lot better. Anyways, sidetrack.
Good.
Indiana Jones.
So he asks, like, who can actually tell me what happened? And Jennifer and Marianne at the same time just go Balky.
So everybody knows Balky is the most honest, unembellishing person there is.
They should have just started with Balky. They should have just said that in the first place.
Yes, when he went and pointed at Gorpley first, I was like, oh, that was your first mistake, buddy.
So he tells Balky to tell him what happened. Start at the very beginning. And Balky goes, "Well, that would be about 4 years ago when I first decided to come to America." And the trooper interrupts and was like, "Skip ahead to when Krause came in." And Balky's like, "Okay, but you're going to miss hearing about the first time I had Mexican food."
That's kind of funny.
That's a funny line, yeah.
So then we dissolve to Balky's version of the story, and now this starts even later, right when Mad Dog busts the door, comes
through
in.
the door.
Except this time, he says, "I'm going to kill you." Now, we all heard him say this is going to be fun in the original timeline.
Yeah,
and
the girls are already hiding in the closet at this point.
So it's weird. If this is the true story, Balky has changed this one line.
But we saw the truth, part.
He said this is going to be fun. Balky turns it into, "I'm going to kill you."
I feel like they just messed up in the editing
is
or
it a
something.
Misdirect?
He just says, "I'm going to kill you."
Or is it made to think that his version of the story is going to be even the most embellished?
Maybe.
Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? I kind of think it might have just been an accident.
But it also cuts to the voiceover of maybe this is the joke. He goes, "I'm going to kill you." And then Balky's voiceover goes, he seemed upset.
Yeah.
You see Gorpley scream and run to the closet and panic. And Balky like,
gives it a positive spin.
Yeah, he's like, Gorpley went to make sure that Jennifer and Marianne were still safe in the closet.
Yeah,
but he just ran like a coward.
So, Balky's not putting anyone down in his version, but in the first two versions,
right? To make themselves
Larry
look better.
and Balky put Gorpley and Larry put other people down. But Balky's making everyone look good here. So then we see Gorpley run to the closet. Larry in this version says, "Now that you're here, why don't you just leave and we won't tell anyone that we saw you." He says this to Mad Dog. And Balky says, "Cousin, that would be lying. However, I do have a couple of Meposian stories that apply to this situation. Would you like to hear them?" And then both Mad Dog and Larry are like, "No." And Mad Dog, kind of starts attacking them.
So he advances and lunges and grabs Balky
and starts choking him,
Larry's
putting
version
him up
of the
off
story.
the ground.
Yes. And similar to Larry's story, Larry jumps back into not a confident karate pose.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Let him go." He goes, "Well, I know karate." And he holds up this weak kind of defensive pose. And it hits and a lot lighter, more sorry yell.
Yeah.
Yes. Not as confident as the Larry version. But that something like that happened.
Yeah. And then it's so funny because this guy who's playing Mad Dog is so huge. And Larry's Mark Lynn-Baker is tiny. So Larry runs and grabs onto his enormous arm and he's doing karate yells. And Mad Dog just flails his arm around and flails. And Larry's body just goes wherever the arm goes.
Yeah, Mad Dog's 6-something, 300-pound
and
guy.
Larry's let him go. And finally, and he's grabbing onto his arm. Finally, Mad Dog's okay, fine, I'll let him go. He lets Balky go. He goes, "I think I'll kill you first." And he turns to Larry. And then Larry tries to karate chop him on his chest, and then he just hurts his hand, and he's like, ow.
He goes, yeah, ow.
Yeah.
He just can't do anything. Meanwhile, at this point, Balky has run into the kitchen and got on the counter behind Mad Dog, and he has a loaf of French bread, a long loaf of bread in his hand, a baguette, and he just whacks Mad Dog on the head with the bread. And then he puts the bread down. He grabs Mad Dog's head to turn him and look at him.
Yeah.
And Balky goes, oh, like it did nothing.
Like it did nothing.
So then he goes off to find something else. Meanwhile, Mad Dog has Larry by the throat, and Mark Linn-Baker's just like jumping as this big dude is lifting him up, and it's hilarious. But Balky has a cookie jar, a green cookie jar. There's a problem. There was one cookie still in the jar. So he stops and tries to eat the cookie real quickly as Larry is getting choked out.
And so he's just like choking Larry, and Balky's just eating
and he takes his time. He's like, taking small bites, chewing really quickly.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he takes 3 or 4 bites and finally throws it, smashes the green cookie jar on Mad Dog's head, does the same thing, turns his head to look at him. No effect. And he was, with the cookie in his mouth. It's so funny.
And then
he was, whoa.
Yeah. And then at this point, Mad Dog has let go of Larry, and Larry's like karate kicking him, like doing these tiny
Larry's
little
try some kicks now, but they don't go
against his legs,
the waist.
They're like these little pathetic kicks and strikes, and he's like
doing nothing,
yelling here and there. And he just like stops to catch his breath. He wears
he tries
himself
to
out.
punch him, and then he has to stop and catch his breath because he's like, whoa, woo, woo. And then he rushes Mad Dog, and now Mad Dog like grabs him in kind of a headlock, and Mark Linn-Baker's legs are flying up as he's lifting up and down. But by this point, Balky has found a frying pan,
a large frying
pan, and he climbs back up on the counter, and gives Mad Dog a one big whack on his head, stuns Mad Dog. Larry jumps back. Larry does do his same finishing move with the hand on his chest, and he goes, and then Balky goes, cause it. I think he's finished. And then Mad Dog falls to his knees, falls down to the ground, unconscious. And Larry goes, good, because I think I broke my hand. Oof. And Balky's like, oh, let me see this.
And then he grabs Larry's hand, and Larry screams in pain. And
this bit is great too.
The girls in Gorpley come out of the closet, and as they're coming out of the closet, Jennifer slaps Gorpley across the face, and then Marianne slaps Gorpley across the face.
Just grinning like a fool.
Oh my gosh. What did he do in the closet? Yeah.
Second of all, Gorpley got smacked the most out of all of these stories.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Backfired on him.
And then Jennifer goes to Larry and she says, Larry, take me home. And Larry looks happy and then confused and shocked, and he's like, huh? And then we dissolve back to present time when they're sitting with the state trooper, and Larry says, you said take me home?
Because, well, yeah. Mark Linn-Baker, when she goes take me home, he's so funny because he pulls her in real quick, and then he's just like, what?
Yeah.
And his face changes.
And then
so funny.
Larry's like kind of hurt and confused, and he turns and he says, Balky, did everything happen the way you said? And Balky said, yeah, I'm afraid so. And then the trooper holds up this like,
well, I like the setting because they're sitting in front of the counter. You see the bread, you see the broken cookie jar, and you see the frying pan with a dent in it. And the trooper picks it up and goes, well, that would explain this.
Yeah, huge dent, like a bald head shaped dent.
Yes, there's like a big round dent in it. It's so funny. So he takes the pan with him, and as he's leaving, he goes, look, if we have any other questions, we'll be in touch with him, pointing to Balky, because he's the only one who can tell him what happened.
And then as the trooper's leaving, Gorpley's still trying to be Gorpley. And he's like, hey, if there's any kind of reward involved, I could come up with a believable story. Maybe we could work out some kind of arrangement.
He's trying to pull a scam.
Yeah, he's trying to win some money.
Look, this is a good time. Let us give credit to the actor playing Mad Dog, who is really funny and huge and intimidating. His name is Rick Zumwalt. Great character. Great job in this episode. This is great. This is very 80s. Some of you who lived through the 80s may know him from this movie. He was an arm wrestling champion. In the 80s, I think they still do it, like professional arm wrestling.
Oh, wow.
He acted in several movies and television shows, and I kind of remember him from this, but most notably, he played a character, Bob Bull Burley, in the 1987 Sylvester Stallone movie Over the Top, which was a movie about arm wrestling.
Ah, wow. I could see him being in arm wrestling. His arms were freaking massive.
He was giant.
In this episode, like just big, thick arms.
Over the Top is hilarious because the title comes from the one move that you do. So if you're arm wrestling, you just turn your hand and put your fingers over the top to fit it.
I used to like to arm wrestle people all the time.
Really?
I have short, thick arms too.
I bet you'd be really good.
Yeah,
you could win a lot of money.
It'd
be a good hustle.
In the women's division.
Yeah. Well, you've seen like the professional ones. There's a pole.
Even a lot of men with skinny arms. I bet I could take
absolutely.
them. Yeah.
There's a little post that you can hold on with the other hand. And like I think one foot has to stay on the floor. There's like a bunch of rules.
You have to hold the other person's left hand.
No, that's if you're doing it like in a bar competition. Yeah. But like the professionals, there's a post for your other hand, and I think one foot has to stay on the ground at all times. And then they just go, and it's fun to watch these arm wrestling. But he was in Over the Top, Mad Dog.
I gotta watch that movie.
Oh my god, it's a great 80s schlock movie. It's a great 80s movie.
All right. The trooper leaves, and Larry is just sitting there kind of stunned with like trying to reconcile his memory versus what he just heard from Balky. He says, I could have sworn I was the one who knocked out Krause. Because if you're in that situation, the way it was Balky described it, like Larry was attacking him one way and Balky was doing something, but in the middle of that, he's not going to be aware of what Balky's doing.
No, you're not. Yeah, you're just.
So he thought he just like knocked him out with his stellar karate moves.
Yeah. Right, and he probably didn't even notice what Balky was doing.
And then Balky says, cousin, sometimes we remember things the way we wish they had happened. And Larry's like, but I thought I was a hero. And Balky's like, well, he tries to cheer him up because he's Balky. He says, you were. If you hadn't distracted Mad Dog by letting him nearly kill you, then I wouldn't have had enough time to go get the frying pan and save your life.
But you know what he does? He looks over at Jennifer before he says this, right? And then Jennifer gets up and walks over, and she goes, I'm very proud of you, Larry.
Oh.
And then Balky walks over to Marianne, and Marianne's goes, I'm proud of you too, Balky. And she goes, and I have all weekend to show you how much.
And Balky says, well, I know one thing we can do. And Marianne just goes, bingy bingy. And Balky's like, you said it.
Oh my God, what is bingy bingy?
What are they going to bingy bingy?
Oh boy, this could get
and
wild.
They go out to the middle of the living room stand and they hold hands and he says, shall we? And then they start to perform the hokey pokey with words about bingy bingy. And they're like, you put your bingy in, you put your bingy out, you put your bingy in, and you shake it all about.
The bingy bingy,
and
the
then
hokey pokey.
Roll credits. We end on the bingy bingy hokey pokey.
Listener, before we get into our thoughts, check out our TeePublic shop if you want some Dance of Joy swag. danceofjoypod.com/shop. Got t-shirts and merch, cell phone cases, mugs. What else? Other things, tote bags, pillows, all with the Dance of Joy logo. You can display it, and then people ask you what it is.
Who doesn't love a good tote?
And then you can share the show. Who doesn't love a good tote? It carries all your groceries.
Yes.
So let's work backwards a little bit. That little bit at the end, if you notice, when they do the bingy bingy song, Balky goes, you put your bingy in, one bingy.
Bingy.
But if you watch Rebecca Arthur, she jumps and goes, you put your bingy bingy. She starts to say it twice. And then you see in her face go.
Catches herself. She rolls her eyes. I messed up.
Oh, whatever. But just keeps going with it.
So fast, though. Yeah.
So they just chose to leave it in. Like they could have reshot that because she's like, I screwed up, but she made it work.
Maybe they were on deadline or something.
But it also kind of works as character, as Marianne. She just forgot it's just one bingy, not two.
One bingy, not two. And maybe they just thought it was cute and left it in.
Anyways, what'd you think of this episode? I
liked
really
it. It was fun. Like sometimes lately I've been like a little negative about these surface level stories without it, but I liked this one because it started with it started so quickly.
Yeah.
The stakes got heightened so quickly that we just dove right into this little fun story. I mean, it was fun. They were going to die, but it was fun in a fun way.
I mean, it's the Bingy Bingy episode, right?
And it's the Bingy Bingy episode, so it's one of the classics, yeah.
Like Gore Police version, with him saying Bingy Bingy over again, I just laughed every time.
That's right.
And also, there's the thing when there's a traumatic event and there's multiple witnesses, you get all different stories.
Yeah.
Right? But not only that, more importantly, this is a classic television trope. Every sitcom... I'm kind of exaggerating, but not really.
It's Rashomon style.
It's called Rashomon style, based on the 1950 Akira Kurosawa film. in which a violent crime happens and 4 different versions are told by 4 different witnesses.
So that was the first instance of this.
But this has been used in TV shows. I can think of so many instances, so many shows that have done this. And I'll tell you what, I love it every time. I always love when they do the Rashomon thing because it gives them a chance to be wacky, to be different, to go crazy, and it's not in canon.
And it fills the time because you have to go through the story a few times.
You want to see it 3 or 4 times.
But notice that nobody asked the girls for their version of the story.
The girls were kind of sidelined because they were just put in the closet.
Yeah, they only want to hear from the men for some reason.
That's called fridging the women. That's another trope in movies.
No, that's called Bechdel test / two women and two men. I was just reading this actually this morning. On TV tropes, 2 men and a woman, or 2 women to a team.
Yeah.
That's when they add a second woman just to because they think it's, but only 2,
Yeah, there's always 2. They could have done a thing instead of Balky having the true story. It could have been like Jennifer poked her head out, or Marianne opened the door to watch and saw the whole thing.
Oh, that's why they didn't say their accounts, because they were in the closet. But yeah,
yes,
they
were in the closet, but they could have easily been like, "Oh, I watched this through the closet, so here's what really happened."
Or here's what we heard. Yeah,
and it makes them all look like idiots, or something.
Oh, or make all the men look like idiots.
I thought it would have been like a series. It could have been like a series of just freak bumbling accounts that he knocks himself out.
Yeah,
that's what really happened. Told by Marianne.
Yeah. But okay, I guess they covered it by having them in the closet, but still, it was all the men involved.
Anyways, should we mention some of
the Rashomon
stories?
The Rashomon. Yeah, what are your favorites that you remember?
There's so many. All in the Family did it. Different World did it. Different Strokes.
Gilligan's Island did it.
Different Strokes. There was a burglary. I kind of remember that. I mean, Empty Nest, ER, Everybody Loves Raymond. Like, the list goes on and on. Veronica Mars, 30-something did it. We talked about 30-something. That's So Raven, that 70s show. Like, every show has done. It's a great
Rashomon style.
It's a great kind of thing to play with that Kurosawa added to the thing there. Anyways.
This also was an episode where we didn't see any of their apartment or the Chronicle, the whole episode. That's weird.
No basement, no apartment, just in this cabin.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Only a few episodes in the entire 8 seasons.
And again, it was a cabin trip with Larry, and even though it wasn't his fault, their lives are still in danger. Why does this happen? He just attracts it. Like, of course.
That's a good point.
Of course. Like the others, it was his fault.
They were off from the rest of the group.
It was his fault because he picked this secluded cabin.
Secluded cabin, right.
On purpose. But lots of good laughs.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Lots of bingy. What did our listeners think?
Okay, our listeners, we have comments. We have a couple new commenters this week.
That's always fun.
Thank you very much. And please keep commenting if you're new. Listener cousin Gabitha Edwards wrote, "Love this episode. So funny. Watching Gorpley's face when he is slapped. Yes,
great reaction.
Very enjoyable. I would watch the whole episode again just to see
him getting
Gorpley
smacked. A whole episode of him getting smacked would be great."
And cousin Nicole Stoner enjoyed the Rashomon trope. She said it was a fun trope. It gives a great dive into the characters' personalities and perceptions. Agreed. That's why all the shows like to do it.
Everybody's done.
And she also thought that the girls could have had a bigger role in this episode and came to the same conclusion as us. Obviously, they're hiding in the closet during the action. Plus, we can't have too many accounts because it's only 22 minutes. But it would be interesting for the sake of fleshing out Jennifer and Marianne's personalities just a little bit more. 100%, I agree, Nicole Stoner. And then we have cousin John Adama, who very astutely says, when I see a cabin, I assume Jennifer is unhappy.
Jennifer does not like cabins. Why do you keep taking her?
But she was like, in all the accounts, she was not super unhappy this time. Everyone was just scared.
Yeah.
And in cousin John's wrap up of the episode, he writes, a Rashomon style story is fun and a nice change of pace, but in a half-hour sitcom, the story has to be awfully simple, making it feel almost unfulfilling for me. Everyone got a chance to stretch their acting abilities and bras, so it's a nice bit of fun. B+.
Okay, I think I liked it a little bit more, but yeah, they could
I would bump it a little higher just because of the bingy bingy.
But they could only do the story like 3 times, right?
Right,
because
it's too long. Yeah, I'm surprised it felt long already. I'm surprised they fit.
You have 5 people,
3 versions in that time
in this situation, and they can only give us 3 versions.
Yeah. The versions got truncated.
They did
each
also,
one.
yes.
Yeah,
Lord Please was the longest, and then it started later and later.
They just got the main beats.
You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out.
And then we have another new cousin friend commentator, cousin Matt Crass.
Hi, cousin Matt.
Hi, cousin Matt Crass
cool.
or Cross. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. And cousin Matt writes so many quotables from this episode that I still use today. Yes. So do we. Bingy bingy. Also, it just wouldn't be Friday without toast.
I'm going to start bringing that back. I'm going to start saying that.
And both of Mad Dog Krause's opening lines, oh, this is going to be fun, and I'm going to kill you.
And this one.
What are we talking about?
Yes.
Oh, my God. It wouldn't be Friday without toast. Bingy bingy is just the best thing to say.
Bingy bingy.
I was walking around just going, bingy bingy.
I wonder if Bronson came up with that.
He probably
somebody wrote that for him.
What does bingy bingy is so good.
And then finally we have cousin Whitney Smith, who remembers the Rashomon's episodes from Different Strokes and Mama's Family.
Yeah.
But she didn't care for how Perfect Strangers did this one. Wondered if it had something to do with using a psychotic serial killer or being in the cabin. Just didn't like it. And cousin Nicole Stoner also comments that there was a Happy Days Rashomon episode, season 8, episode 15. And we care about that because
it's part of the shared universe. Happy Days is part of the Perfect Strangers,
Milwaukee, Chicago cinematic universe.
And the showrunners and the creators worked on both. But yeah, it's all
connected.
tied in. This, and that means more community.
And the Happy Days Rashomon was also set in a cabin. So here is another one of this instances where the writers are like recycling the stories.
Already, and they're like,
this happened before, right? I can't remember with what, but
this is the kind of trope
the
that,
same story.
Like I said, you could do it if you have a TV show. You could do it in every TV show. It's easy. I got one episode done. It's gonna be Rashomon. We'll figure it out.
Right. Or like learning to drive with kitchen equipment and grocery.
Yes, everybody
produce.
does that. That's great. But you got to have like a good reason for it, and it's got to be fun. Yeah. So it's all in the little details. Kind of like the Aristocrats joke.
Yeah, exactly.
The punchline is the same. That's all about how you get there.
So I think it's, I thought it was nice. Our listeners enjoyed it. Well, some to varying degrees, but
fun episode.
Fun Rashomon.
You don't exactly get a Don't Be Ridiculous.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
He said, of course I do. I am ridiculous.
Which is also kind of funny. And since we were not in the apartment or the Chronicle, no Dimitri.
Yo, I would have thought who would bring Dimitri with him to the cabin.
Dimitri, yes. Yeah. We could have travel Dimitri with travel clothes on or something.
Yeah. And now it's time for the segment of our show called Perfect Strangers Today, or PS Today, in which we talk about, can we remake this story today? Would it still hold up? Well, we already mentioned a couple of things that definitely would not hold up.
Yeah.
The inflated chests on the girls in Gorpley's version. Babes in the closet.
By the way, there's women in the closet.
Yeah.
But what did I say? Rashomon style is
Rashomon style still works.
Timeless thing. It's about
how would you get a news bulletin from a radio?
Oh my God!
You would get an Amber Alert on your phone.
Amber Alert.
Yeah, and the Amber Alert would say the description and the park.
That's what would happen. You know what's funny? When you said Amber Alert earlier, I thought we both watched that show Beef on Netflix.
Yeah.
And this is not spoiler. There is a funny scene where this Amber Alert goes off, and the one dude looks at his phone. He goes, "Yo, how do I turn these Amber Alerts off?"
That was really funny.
I was like, "That's hilarious."
Beef is also a very excellent show on Netflix.
Beef is great. That's what that Amber Alert. But yeah, they could do the same thing. You would be in the cabin. There'd be an Amber Alert.
Their phones.
You could have a crazy killer in the woods.
But then they could call the cops earlier while they're hiding, or they could call, like from their cell phone.
No, the whole point was it was secluded.
Yeah,
there would be no.
So they wouldn't. Okay, they wouldn't have signal to call, but you would still get Amber Alerts,
possibly,
right?
Yeah. They try to call and be like, I don't have any connection.
I don't know. Yeah.
But the Amber Alert comes through everything for something. You can write it that way.
Good. Yeah.
But you could do the same thing with the fights and the physical comedy and most of it you could do except for the.
Or maybe the phones don't work, but there's a TV somehow working and they see it on the news. I don't know. Yeah, but the physical comedy, everything else would be the same. So it would need a little bit of tweaking, but it could still work.
Yeah, I give it an above average PS Today score.
Okay.
All right, join us next week, listener, when we meet another pet of Balky's. It's not a cow. It's not a sheep or a goat. It's a feathered friend. And hilarity happens. In the meantime, if you want to support the show, there's one great way to leave us a virtual tip in our virtual tip jar. You can buy us a virtual coffee. Visit the website. There is a buy us a coffee button there. We appreciate any and all support. All goes back in to making you guys remember the 90s and the nostalgia and making the show
keep
going.
Or you could buy us a bingy bingy.
You know, we use the bingy bingy to support the bingy bingy. How else am I going to bingy bingy?
We should make a coffee mug with our logo on it, and then it says, "Don't talk to me until I've had my bingy bingy."
Oh my God, that is actually brilliant. I think we can make a t-shirt too that says the same thing. But the coffee mug, it makes more sense because it's coffee. Don't talk to me until I've had my bingy bingy.
And then like buy us a coffee there.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Somebody write that down. Oh, we just recorded it. I'm going to make it.
Let's do it.
There's so many t-shirts I have still yet to make. I'm sorry. I'll get to it.
Yes, get it done. All right. In the meantime, you can also visit us on our website, danceofjoypod.com. There you can find links to all the places where you can listen to the podcast, where you can like it, subscribe to it, leave us a rating or a review. You can also, right there from the main website, press a little button and leave us a voice message. Tell us about your bingy bingy. Tell us if you've ever remembered a story differently than how it actually happened.
Is that what happened?
Tell us about your own personal Rashomon story in your life. Or you can just send us an email and put it in writing, danceofjoypod@gmail.com. Let us know if you would like a coffee mug, a Dance of Joy Pod coffee mug.
Or any other suggestions you have, I will make them.
Says
and
bingy bingy. Yeah, we will make custom merch.
Yeah.
If you write into us or leave us a voice message, or you can chat with us on any of our social media sites. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dance of Joy Pod. But Imran, what is the most important thing our listeners should do?
Well, if you're going to bingy bingy,
make sure you bingy bingy.
Otherwise, you're going to get a rash on your bingy bingy.
But never in a dependent clause.
That
is very important.
It's a very important thing.
Also, very important is to share this show with a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way, and we appreciate any little help we can get sharing our love for Perfect Strangers with the world. Now we are so happy we bingy bingy.
Happy we do the dance of joy.
Hey, 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 hey. Bingy bingy.